foster placement on its way to me right now." "That's brilliant news," she said. I'd been on the available list with my fostering agency for the past couple of weeks, but so far nothing had come up. "I hope she's right," I told Vicky. "I'm ready for a new challenge." At that time, I had 2 children living with me. Louisa had been with me since her parents had been tragically killed in a car crash 5 years ago. Alone and struggling to cope with her grief, she'd been painfully shy at first, but she had turned into a strong, confident, determined young woman who I was very proud of. She'd recently turned 18, so she was now an adult and officially out of the care system. Even though I wasn't legally fostering her anymore, she would always be part of my family, and she knew she could live with me for as long as she wanted to. She had finished a course in childcare and had just got a job as a nanny for a local family, which she was really enjoying. Then there was baby Ryan, who was upstairs having his morning nap. He was 6 months old now and had been with me since he was 2 weeks old, when his teenage parents had taken him to hospital, saying that he'd rolled off the sofa and bumped his head. Staff had been suspicious of this explanation, as a baby that young doesn't roll, and X-rays had shown he'd also got a fractured rib. An emergency protection order had been issued and he'd immediately been taken into care. The Crown Prosecution Service was still looking into whether there was enough evidence to charge his parents with hurting him. The plan was that Ryan would eventually go for adoption, and I was looking after him until then. I had leapt at the chance to care for Ryan. It was heartbreaking to think that a tiny baby had gone through such pain and cruelty at the hands of the 2 people who were supposed to love him the most. It wasn't hard to get attached to babies, and Ryan was a lovely, smiley little boy. He had a lovely thick mop of blonde curls and bright blue eyes that made him look like a little cherub. Thankfully, so far he didn't seem to have been affected by the traumatic start that he'd had to his life. You might think that I had my hands full with a teenager and a young baby to look after, but the truth was, life was a bit too quiet for me. Louisa was at work all day or out with her friends, and Ryan was an easy baby. I liked the noise and the chaos of having several children living with me, and I had plenty of room in my 6-bed house. My other long-term foster placement, Lily, had gone back to live with her birth mother several months ago, and I'd said goodbye to teenage mum Jess and her baby Jimmy around the same time, as they now had their own place along with Jimmy's dad Darren. Since they'd all left, I'd had a few respite placements, but now I was hoping for something a bit more long-term. Although I always liked the challenge of stroppy teenagers, my ideal was a child or children under 12. I found that age group particularly interesting. I liked the endless questions, the funny things they said, and the way their minds were like little sponges soaking up everything around them. Yep, life is a bit too quiet and organised for me at the minute, I thought, as I flicked the kettle on to make everyone a cup of tea. I was putting some digestive biscuits onto a plate when my mobile rang. I recognised the number flashing up on the screen. It was Becky, my supervising social worker from the fostering agency I worked for. She'd been my link worker ever since I joined the agency well over a year ago, and we got on really well. "Hi, Maggie," she said. "I'm not disturbing anything, am I?" "If I told you what was going on at my house at the minute, you'd think I was mad," I smiled, thinking about the tarot card reader in the front room. "What can I do for you?" "I've just had a call from a social worker called Kate Lewis, who said she'd worked with you in the past." She was at the local authority that I'd worked for before I'd moved to the agency. She'd been the social worker on a couple of placements I'd had way back when I'd first started fostering. I remembered Kate because she was very well spoken and was always perfectly turned out with swishy hair and expensive-looking clothes. The cases we'd worked on together had been 2 troubled teens. One of them had threatened me with a gun, and the other was a persistent runaway, so they'd both been a challenge, to say the least. "Gosh, that was years ago," I told Becky. "I'm surprised she remembers me." "Well, you must have made an impression, as she asked for you specifically," she replied. "She needs someone to take an emergency placement, and she said you were good with tricky cases." "Ah, it's one of those, is it?" I asked, wondering exactly